All right, I wanted to make a little video on your taking of the notes. What does that mean? I'll say this in class, and so people will be ready if you've heard me in class. But at the same time, people zone out when you're giving them instructions, and it's like, well, how do I know what I'm doing is right? What am I really doing here? And so this video is short so that you will watch it and go, okay, that's what I need to do in order to take notes. All right, so here's the idea of notes. I have found, again, I won't go and elaborate on this, but I have found that students actually learn, in my opinion, 80% better by taking notes. I also have told you in other classes and will continue to tell you, you're going to do this in part as your career, right? You're going to sit in a meeting and you're going to write that stuff down, because if you don't, you'll fail, because they'll give you assignments and then you'll leave and you're like, oh dang, they asked me to do 6 things and I remember 3 of them, right? You don't want that to happen to you. So it's important to get the habit down of, he's saying these things, this is what's important, I'm writing it down. That's heavily important. And then of course in the tech field, I know everybody thinks you can get this stuff off the internet, but that's not true. There are meetings every single year, especially like if you go to the big network ones or the security ones, where they're sharing information, and that stuff's not online. And the reason it's not online is because the people that are giving you that information want the money from their expertise, and you shouldn't hate them for it. They are standing up there giving you information that is vital, usually, to your organization, and they're not just going to put that on a website where somebody can get that for free. That's something that makes them marketable and sellable and make the hundreds of thousands a year that they make. And so you're going to find that. And that's what I found in the industry. And that was a long time ago when things weren't even as fast as what they are now. Of course, the other part of it is you have companies that really do want you to have that information, but it takes a while for it to get there. They release a product, they release a documentation with the product. Then there's things that they don't know about, right? Because it hasn't been tested and the product doesn't work specifically how they say. And how do you get around those issues? Well, you go to somebody who knows, because it's not on a website. Once the product's been out for 3 or 4 years, then you can just search online. Oh, there's your answer. This is what I need to do. But usually when it's 1 or 2 years old and you're going to find yourself in that situation, it's not there. And so you'll go to these meetings and you're going to sit there for hours and you'll need to just write that stuff down and be able to focus so that when you go back and go, okay, so even though the product says to do this, I have to do these 4 things first. Otherwise, it's not going to succeed. That is the way it works in technology, and we are far from fixing that problem. And so notes are an important part. What do I expect to see? I tell people I'm grading notes pretty harshly. I've had some people just take what's in test out and paste it into something. There's my notes. I can't say it any better than test out did. Well, I'm not asking you to do a presentation. I'm asking you to write down what you think is more important so that you'll focus your mind on what's important. And so there's a couple things. You're in class. Obviously, you need to be listening to me and you need to be writing those notes down frantically. Now, if you want to, copy and paste out a test out, right? Because a lot of what I'm going to do is say, hey, right here in test out, it says this, and you need to know these things about that, right? That's what I'm going to do. It's just fine to take that core content out of test out, put it into Word, put it into Google Docs. I suggest OneNote. What? Actually use a note-taking program? Yeah, check out OneNote. Put that in there and then make comments next to it, right? If I'm using test out as the basis of the material, right? It's the textbook, right? Then what your notes are going to be based around is, oh, well, here's a definition of, a token ring network. We don't talk too much about that anymore, but here's a token ring network, and he's basically telling me what the definition is, and so is test out. Now he's telling me other stuff that's not in test out. Let me write that down next to it. Now, when I say write, I mean type that down next to it. If you're going to handwrite your notes out, I'm going to say convert that to text. And there's one huge reason why. This is technology. right? I understand that you want to handwrite it, and maybe that's the way you've always taken notes. And a lot of people get it into their head through the writing process, which is fantastic. Not going to stop you from doing that. What I am going to stop you from doing is turning that into me. Think about it. If I was your boss at work and I said, "Well, give me a brief on what happened in that conference you went to, and then we paid 3,000 for you to go there," he's not going to say that, or she's not going to say that. But that's what they're thinking. So tell me what you learned. Oh, well, here's my handwritten notes. I don't want that. Are we in technology? What are you, a doctor? Right? Holding on to the past of 15, 20 years ago? They're going to say, why don't you type that up for me? Right? And then you're going to go back to your desk and you're going to take and type it up, even though right there is a bunch of information that at the conference you got and they listed it all out for you. You wrote things down next to it. Now you're going to type it out. So what I would prefer that you do is use a computer. And if you're going to take the notes, the stuff, the fact sheets out of test out, then you're going to type next to that information and you're going to organize it well, right? So you're going to have like, here's where I stuck the test out stuff. Sorry, I'm disappearing. And then here is where I put my notes, right? Think about how you're writing it out. Now, in all of this that I'm telling you, you may get lost and think, okay, so he's really testing me on how it's organized. Yeah, that's going to be part of the score, but the majority of the score is going to be what did they learn out of that? I didn't even talk about any of that stuff. If you happen to be, we get into this COVID situation where some people can't attend, and so you're actually taking this remotely, then obviously I'll do a video and your notes need to be over those videos. If I didn't do a video, then your notes needs to be over the videos and test out, right? So in some situations, I've had people that they'll start a class and then they're like, I can't be there, face to face. And I'm like, well, then you need to watch those videos that are in test out of those people, right? And what they're saying. And you need to take notes over what they're saying, not print out a fact sheet and then just turn that in, right? So number one, if you're going to handwrite your notes, good for you, but convert it to text before you turn it in for a grade. Number two, take notes beyond what you see in the fact sheet. Now, some of you are like, well, I'm not going to print a fact sheet. Good for you. Then what you're going to do is number three, turn in the notes that you took that are typed up, right? So you don't have to have the test out facts sitting there and then your notes as to what you took. You don't have to do that. And the last thing for how are you really being graded for this? Well, I'm trying to see, were you listening at all? Did you actually gather information about what we were talking about when we start talking about TCP/IP, which I wish they were on version 6 instead of 4. We spend a long time on IP4 because people just won't move on anyway. And so we go through a lot of that, and so you're going to have some bare facts that are going to be there. And then of course I'm going to talk about other things that are hopefully helping you understand it. And I'm looking in your notes to see if you got any of that, if you really are understanding the material, or if you're just going line by line, like here it is. Now obviously the line by line is good, that does help you, that helps you in class. But if you're listening and picking up on things, right, then you're going to have other things, other stuff in there that means more. I know that that's all. It's like, what is this guy talking about? I've been there. I've done that, right? I've listened to an instructor tell me these kinds of things, and it's not something that you can easily to just understand. It's something that you have to try to do. Your notes will have to be turned in, on time, and I will grade them so that you can see, oh, I didn't do enough on that to get the grade I was looking for. I need to do more, or you can ask me questions. One of the biggest things that happens in this class, especially because of all the material we go through, is people don't study in advance, which they're supposed to do, and they never ask the questions. And so a huge part of your notes is, did you go through the material and test out prior to when we had the class? So that when we get in the class, you're like, oh, I was wondering how that worked. Instead of, this is all flipping new to me. I have no idea what he's talking about, right? That's usually what people do. And so I'm going to tell you that in class, you should be prepped and ready for me to go, hey, what about this? Or did you notice this in the material? Or how do you think that works with that? And then, you know, hopefully I'll have you go, I know, or this is what I thought. I don't know if I'm right. Because that's the point you want to be at in the class. Then your notes are wonderful. All right, well, that's it for this video. It's longer than I even wanted. So we'll talk to you later.